all the promises he made on Ruto, or he made to Ruto, I should say, and has no debt or MOU to support the DP unconditionally. ODM party leader Raila Odinga, allies like Governor Wycliffe Oparanya want him to back Aluya. Some core MPs have defied party and vowed to support Ruto's 2022 bid. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. We have 3 governors now announcing formation of People's Empowerment Movement to edge him out from being the region's kingpin. NC Party leader Musalia Mudavadi deferred with Secretary General and nominated MP Godfrey Osotsi. MPs Justice Murunga and Titus Kamala have vowed to back Ruto. So also on the political parties front, a lot is happening. There is a lot of formation right now, and we'll be also drilling deeper in this much later in the course of a program with our panelist. Now, 3 county bosses take on Wiper leader. This is what we were talking about there, and this is Charity Ngilu, Alfred Mutua, and Kifutha Kibwana, saying region needs fresh leadership. Accused Kalonzo of attempting to destabilize their administrations through MCAs. And also, Linturi accuses Keitani of forging divorce papers. Meru Senator claims his estranged wife, Marianne Keitani, forged papers showing he divorced Mercy Kaimenyi, who he had married in April 2005 at Tigania Catholic Parish in Meru. That is a story that you need to follow also on page 6 of the Standard this morning. The Star is up next. Police probe fresh Obado murder plot is what is headlining the front page of the Star this morning. Governor's former business associate claims his life is in danger. Governor's spokesman says his boss is not aware of any investigation. And you have this story continuing on page 4 and 5 of the Star this morning. You can see a related picture here. Back in the news, Migori Governor Okoth Obado arriving at Movenpick Hotel, Nairobi for Council of Governors meeting yesterday. You can follow that story on page 4 and 5 of the Star. Also, Uhuru meets Ruto, warns against early campaigns. And after putting up a show of friendship in a church on Sunday, President Uhuru Kenyatta reportedly met DP William Ruto for 5 hours yesterday. Various sources yesterday told the Star that the president, who has on several occasions warned against 2022 politics, expressed dismay with Ruto's early campaigning for State House. The meeting was held at State House, Nairobi from 11 a.m. It was not immediately clear if anyone else apart from the two attended, and you can also follow that story on page 2 of the Star this morning. School turns away girl for reporting with only soap and bra. You can read that story on page 11. And also suffering in silence, FGM wrecks lives of hundreds in Kajiado County. You have the story on page 12 and 13 of the Star. People Daily up next, and this is your splash. AG Maraga clash, cold war between executive judiciary over slow pace of corruption cases, convictions degenerates into sharp open blame game. And this story is tucked away on page 4 of the People Daily this morning. Oparanya trounces Waiguru in CUG. Paul Kakamega governor, seen as unifying political figure in hotly contested race, clinches lobby chairman's slot. That story on page 2 of the People Daily. Good news as well. Big relief for Kenyans as fuel prices slashed. Regulators eases pain for consumers by cutting petroleum prices by more than 9 shillings per litre. That story is tucked away on page 16 of the People Daily this morning. Let's see what the Business Daily is holding for us. Just backed by a lens, 4.7 billion shillings to parent firm, loaned by SBM Bank Kenya, which reported 1.8 billion shillings profit in 9 months to September, set to raise scrutiny by unpaid depositors. That is a story that you want to follow on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. Also, Relievers regulator cuts diesel price by 10 shillings a litre is another story that you can follow inside the Business Daily this morning. And this picture also was on the front page of the Daily Nation, war on graft, and we have a new anti-corruption czar there who was sworn in yesterday, Twalib Mubarak, during the swearing-in ceremony of Mr. Mubarak at the Supreme Court yesterday. That is the picture that you can see here, together with the Director of Public Prosecutions and also Director of Criminal Investigations. You can follow this story inside the Business Daily as well. Airtel Telecom in talks to take on Safaricom. Airtel has received talks with has revived, I should say, talks with Telkom for a possible merger or buyout that is expected to create financial strong outfit to compete with market leader Safaricom. That is the latest development. And of course, you remember this story was also fixated on the media last year. Then it tapered off, and of course, they claimed, yes, they are not really broaching the subject right now. But now it seems it's firmly on the table, and this is the latest development right now. And you can see there Telkom CEO Mugu Kibati and Prasanta Da Sarma, the Airtel CEO as well. You can follow that story inside the Business Daily this morning. Also, Deloitte books 58 million shillings fees for Kenya Power. Electricity distributor Kenya Power has inked a deal with Deloitte that will see the Big Four accounting firm and 58 million shillings professionals fees for consultancy services. This story continues on page 8 of the Business Daily. Also, this is today's digits, 500 million shillings. That is the amount. Barium Capital has helped Branch International raise for local own lending. That story on page 20 of the Business Daily. And Kobil CEO to sell his 88 billion shares. Oil marketer Kenan Kobil has amended its employees' share ownership plan, that is ESOP rules, allowing its chief executive officer David Ohana to sell all of his 88 million shillings shares to French firm Rubis Energy for 2 billion shillings. That story continues on page 7 of the Business Daily. Treasury debt service cost to fall. The Treasury has cut the projected cost of servicing public debt for the current fiscal year by 14 billion shillings, reflecting the lower interest rates on issued securities. Is another story that you can follow on page 19 of the Business Daily this morning. I want to show you also what we have on the front page of Taifa Leo. A quick look at that. Let me try and lift it for us so that we can see what it has for us today as well. And this is what is on the front page of Taifa Leo. Hofu mpya ya madeni ya China. Serikali ya kaa kimya kuhusu ripoti za kukubalia kutwaliwa kwa rasilimali za Kenya ikishindwa kulipa mabilioni ya SGR. That is a splash. This is all about of course, the contract that has been extensively also discussed in media. That is a story that you want to follow inside the Taifa Leo today. Let's cross over now to Tanzania and pick up the Citizen. Ban on cashew nut exports affects BOPs. The cashew nut export ban has affected Tanzania's balance of payment after recording a deficit of $500 million in 1 month. All cashews harvested during the 2018-2019 farming season are still stored in warehouses. This story continues on page 2 of the Citizen. And also, government moves to repossess 6 idle METL sisal farms in Korogwe. That story continues on page 3 of the Citizen in Tanzania. And hostilities undermine EAC unity on page 2 is where you can follow that story. Neighbors tell how ex-TPA staff met death. You can follow this story as well on page 2 of the Citizen. Still there, Mwananchi is the Swahili publication. Jinsi mstaafu wa bandari alivyouawa kwa mkasi da is a story that you want to follow also inside Mwananchi if you're waking up in Tanzania this morning. We cross over now to Uganda, and Daily Monitor is up next, and this is what you have as your splash today. Museveni orders UCC to explain MTN license fees. This is what we have here. President now wants to know why the proposed 375 billion shillings as 10-year license fee for the telecommunication firm came down to 217 million shillings. This is a story that you want to follow inside the Daily Monitor on page 4 today. And police officers battle NRM party youth. You can see them here tagging along, and this is how they were actually manhandling the officer. Yeah, pulling at his trousers there. Police officers battle a group of youth from different divisions of Kampala who called themselves members of the National Resistance Movement, social media activists. The group said they wanted to hand over a petition to Speaker of Parliament yesterday on what they called interference by Britain in Uganda's affairs. This story continues on page 5 of the Daily Monitor. If you're waking up in Uganda, man 80 drags fiancé 23 to police for failing to conceive. Right, and that is the story that you have on page 3. Who could be having the problem? Is it the 80-year-old or the 23, right? And is the police the right place to actually take the girl? Well, you can follow that story on page 3. That is the police station. This is on the front page of the Daily Monitor. Let's cross over now to Rwanda and see what the New Times is holding for us. If you're waking up in Rwanda, Equatorial Guinea president visits Rwanda. This is the splash today, and you can see him here. This is President Kagame and Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo of Equatorial Guinea holding bilateral talks in Kigali during the latter's one-day working visit to Rwanda yesterday. That story tucked away on page 4 of the New Times in Rwanda. A new academic year starts with unfixed issues. That story continues on page 4 of the New Times in Rwanda. We continue and also take an extensive view of what is happening in the region, basically. This is on the East African. Tshisekedi is declared winner. Can he fix a broken Congo? That is the abiding question. Surprise announcement as the Catholic Church disputes results. A coalition government could be on the cards. The story on page 8 and 9 of the East African is where you have the full report there. Also ready to fly. Tanzania gets its second Airbus, now eyeing international routes. National Carrier's second Airbus A220-300 aeroplane, christened Ngorongoro, landed at the Julius Nyerere International Airport in Dar es Salaam to pomp and ceremony on Friday. Right. That is refusing to roll off my tongue easily. But you have the story tucked away on page 5 of the East African this morning. Also shock as Burundi asks students to raise poll cash. That is a story that you want to follow also inside the East African this week. Let's see what we have also on other dailies this morning. We can, if you've not grabbed a copy of the Fortune magazine, this is how it looks. I just want to show you. This is how the Fortune magazine looks. The latest edition, the shrinking middle class. Right. That's the design, and you can grab a copy of the Fortune magazine for all the gritty details of this. Also, we can show you what we have on the front page of the History Revealed. If you're a history buff, and you love history, cocaine, mice, and mercury, 10 unlikely cures from the past. It's all about revolution. And Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and the Cuban Revolution that changed the world. If you want to know all about these revolutions, you can grab a copy of the history, bringing the past to life. Also, we do have, when is the last time I actually read Reader's Digest? You remember it? I think Wamatangi was an avid fan of Reader's Digest. Wamatangi, do you still buy Reader's Digest, or they're not in supply anymore?
But it used to be one of the most informative and good reads in those days.
Right.
Yeah.
50 ways to protect your heart like cardiologists do. You can grab a copy of this latest edition of the Reader's Digest. And also Foreign Affairs. This is what is on the front page of Foreign Affairs. Who will run the world? That is a probing question. America, China, and global order. Elizabeth Warren, a foreign policy for all. You can follow the story inside the latest edition of the Foreign Affairs. If you are into international affairs as well, this also is a good pick for you, right? Well, it's really jumped to so many pages. This is on page 5. But this is how it looks. You can grab a copy of that as well. And lastly, I just want to show you also what is on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. This is the latest edition that we do have, of course, at the time, notwithstanding the difference of time there. And UK Prime Minister braces for Brexit vote. Remember, that is happening today. And we'll give you also the gritty details of this. PG&E chief quits amid fire crisis. That is what we want to also read about. PG&E Corp said Sunday that Chief Executive Geisha Williams was stepping down as the company grapples with the growing political and financial fallout of its role in helping spark California wildfires. That is a story that you want to follow on the Wall Street Journal. Also, utilities sparked 1,500 wildfires, now faces collapse. And White House asked Pentagon for options to strike at Iran. President Trump's National Security Council asked the Pentagon to provide the White House with military options to strike Iran last year. generating concern at the Pentagon and the State Department. Current and former U.S. officials said. You can follow this story also inside the Wall Street Journal. Reduced focus, fears, I should say, for stocks and possible bidding. Possible BDE's page turner for Garnet. That is also another story that you want to follow inside the Wall Street Journal as well. Lastly, let me just show you the hard copies that we do have here of some of the magazines that we do have here. So the African Report, Africa in 2019. If we may just show this on camera 3 as well. This is how it looks. I can actually show you there. Yeah, the Africa in 2019. If you've not grabbed a copy, this is how it looks as well. Yeah, so all the faces are here. Also, African Business Tipping Point, Africa's West Challenge. That is the story. Also on Forbes, the Visionary War. This is how it looks. And also, we have the new African, a deadly game of chess. The Horn, new and all players vie for dominance. You can grab a copy of the new African as well. All right. Just want to take you back to the Daily Nation. This is how it looks. Please grab a copy. All right, if my director may just pick up of this. That is the front page of the Daily Nation. You can grab a... This is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. So if you're not really grab a copy of that, please make sure you do. Fantastic. For now, let's see what we have in the highlights for you. Search for answers on SGR contract ended up in a ping-pong game from State House to State Office. Protesters block roads over fuel hikes in Zimbabwe. And give my deal a second look. British PM May urges Parliament. Now, a contradictory position have been taken on the news that the government offered Kenya's assets as collateral for the Chinese loan to build the standard gauge railway. While a senior government official familiar with the contract views it as nothing out of the ordinary, some economists view it as a highly irregular. But if the financing agreement entered into by Kenya and China for the SGR really is as innocuous as some government officials claim, then why hasn't an official position been taken on the clarification sought? And why, 2 weeks later, hasn't President Kenyatta's administration made good on his promise to make the contract available for scrutiny? Those are the probing questions. And Olive Barrows reports.
To all Kenyans who are watching us and to this committee, that in procurement law, there is nothing like government to government.
Questions surrounding the cost of the standard gauge railway and the due diligence carried out by government prior to its construction have dogged the project from early on. As things stand, the heads of the National Land Commission and the Kenya Railways Corporation are facing charges in court over irregular compensation made for railway reserve land. And now, scrutiny on the financing agreement entered into by Kenya and China for the first phase from Mombasa to Nairobi has revealed that Kenya offered as security its sovereign assets, despite the head of state being adamant that the Mombasa port is safe from Chinese takeover.
We got people worried that there's some public assets that would be put up against the said loan for the SGR.
But
just to close, yes.
I have said, Bwana Masai.
Yes.
Right? Do you want a copy of the contract?
Yes, and that's what I wanted to say, to ask that you
want
already.
a copy?
Yes, I do.
I will give it to you.
And Kenyans as well, just so that...
Yes. I thought through you, you will pass it on.
Yes, to publicize it, not just to have it to me. Because people want to have it.
Uniambie kwa hiyo contract ni pahali gani
Nipe tafadhali.
Nitakupatia.
Asante.
Ni mali yako jameni, wewe si Mkenya.
2 weeks and counting, and the said contract remains elusive. In an expose, however, the Sunday Nation revealed that as a standard practice, the contract contains a confidentiality clause. What wasn't quite so clear-cut is the provision in the contract that required Kenya to waive all claim of immunity over its assets on sovereign grounds. And while the implications legitimize the concern for the port of Mombasa, some state officers have sought to downplay the provision as run-of-the-mill. Among them, the Cabinet Secretary for the East African Community, Aden Mohammed. Several economists are, however, not buying it, viewing the concession as highly irregular. It is not even practical to attach national assets as a loan collateral. Sovereign guarantees are usually sufficient to cover for loans borrowed by governments. Those are the thoughts of a Nairobi-based economic analyst who sought to remain unnamed. And no explanation has been put forth on another contentious provision on disputes that dictates that they be placed before the China International Economic and Trade Arbitration Commission in Beijing under Chinese law and with no option for appeal. A dictate viewed by the experts as unconventional. Speaking to the Nation, cross-border commercial contract specialist Shitul Shah explained that normally you would need an independent arbitrator because this is about mediation, which should be made neutral and impartial by all means. Specifying the mediator and the neutral ground to carry out the mediation is suspect. Reporting for NTV, I'm Olive Barrows.
Chief Justice David Maraga has once again defended the judiciary against accusations that it is a limping foot in the war on graft. He has in turn accused the Office of the DPP and the DCI of presenting weak cases in court, even as the Attorney General added his voice to those hitting at the slow pace of court processes. This was during the swearing-in of Twalib Abdallah Mbarak as the Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, where he promised to make corruption an expensive affair.
I, Twalib Abdallah Mbarak, having been appointed the Secretary, Chief Executive Secretary to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, do swear that I will at all times obey, respect and uphold the Constitution of Kenya and all other laws of the Republic, that I will faithfully and fully, impartially and to the best of my knowledge and ability discharge the trust, perform the functions and exercise the powers devolving upon me by virtue of this appointment without fear, favor, bias, affection, ill will or prejudice. So help me God.
It's now an almost all-male affair at the Council of Governors after the only female contestant for the position of chair, Anne Waguru, was defeated at the elections, with Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya succeeding Josephat Nanok. The other lady in the council, Bomet Governor Joyce Laboso, clinched the chairperson of the Education Committee, while Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu did not get a position. That is what we have for you this morning, of course, from our political and reporter, that is Kennedy Muridi.
After a council meeting that lasted almost the whole day, culminating in elections, they emerged from the meeting ready to deliver the news to the waiting press. And dignitaries who had been invited to preside over the function.
The chairperson is His Excellency Wycliffe Ambesa Oparanya. The vice chair is His Excellency Mwangi Wairia. And the chief whip is His Excellency Honorable Professor Kibutha Kibwana.
Intrigues and behind-the-scene lobbying led to the outcome announced today, as NTV is informed. The governors were keen on ensuring that those who will be given the mantle to head the council will not be swayed by the politics of the day, and neither will they be easily forced into submission by the government. According to a source in the meeting, there is a feeling that the council had ceded ground to the national government on many issues. They agreed their head to be changed.
We are very proud that we have an opportunity to govern our resources. We have our fair share of the cake. And I want to say that having been in the office for that 1 year period, I have seen it is indeed working, and it is the only way that is going to let Kenya move to greater heights.
At the start of the polls, 6 governors had shown interest. The outgoing chairman Turkana Governor Josphat Nanok, the outgoing vice chairperson Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya, Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, Uasin Gishu Governor Jackson Mandagor, and the new chairman Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya. Oparanya went into the contest having won support from a majority of the 14 counties that make up the Lake Region Economic Bloc, and having served as the Minister for Planning during the 2009 census. A new census is due later this year. The question of economic blocs and local regional politics played a key role in the elections, with those in attendance either voting to oust those in positions or vote for a new crop. The question of gender in the new executive committee has also come into focus, with only one of them making the cut. Apart from Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, who was gunning for the chairperson position, Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu was left in the cold. Governor Nanok says the team he led did an excellent job and adhered to its mandate.
As I vacate office alongside my 2 colleagues who are members of the executive, we vacate office on a higher note, having delivered on the assignment the governors gave us, which is that of close collaboration on matters service delivery. We have not let the governors down during our tenure.
The new executive committee will also have Bungoma Governor Wycliffe Wangamati chairing the Finance, Planning, Economic Affairs and ICT Committee, Kisii Governor James Ongwae chairing the Human Resource, Labour and Social Welfare Committee, Kericho Governor Paul Chepkwony chairing the Gender, Youth, Sports, Culture and Social Services Committee, Bomet Governor Joyce Laboso chairing the Education Committee, Embu Governor Martin Wambora chairing the Trade, Investment, Manufacturing and Cooperatives Committee, Isiolo Governor Mohamed Kuti chairing the Health Committee, Tharaka Nithi Governor Muthomi Njuki chairing the Agriculture Committee, Samburu Governor Moses Lenol Kulal taking over as the chairperson of the arid and semi-arid areas, Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi taking over as the Legal Affairs Chairperson, Narok Governor Samuel Ole Tunai also chairing the Tourism and National Resources Committee, while Nakuru Governor Leil Kinyanjui becoming the new chair of the Urban Planning, Housing and Infrastructure Committee. Kennedy Muredhi, NTV.
Now, the Energy Regulatory Commission has announced new pump prices to be used for the next month, with the prices of super petrol and diesel both reducing by more than 9 shillings. In Nairobi, super petrol decreases by 9 shillings and 33 cents to retail at 104 shillings and 21 cents. Diesel will now sell at 102.24, which is 10 shillings and 4 cents less. Kerosene users are set to pay 3 shillings and 52 cents for every litre at 101.7 shillings. The significant reductions have come as a result of the average landed costs of imported super petrol and diesel decreasing by more than 14% in the period from November to December 2018. During the same period, the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Kenya shilling appreciated marginally by 0.27% from 102.44 in November to 102.16 units in December. LIVESTREAM. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. And happy felicitations for the new year. For them that have not seen them and spoken to them, Otende, Dr. Eseli, Jacomi Dio, asante sana, and good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, a lot has been happening, and we want to discuss this morning as far as the contract is concerned. Just a snippet, just get your views. We discussed that extensively yesterday, and this is still a developing story. We're yet to see if also the government will provide this particular controversial contract that many people seem not to be aware of what really it contains. But also the new political realignment in Ukambani. We have the three governors, that is Kifuza Kibwana, Charity Ngilu, and Alfred Mutua, now forming up maybe what will actually be the outcome of a new party from the alliance that we have. And this is seeming maybe to try and put the political career of Kalonzo Musyoka on the chopping block. So we'll take a keener look on that as well. And the party politics. There seem to be rebellion right now that is happening, especially with the Jubilee Party. People are saying this is a house of Jumbili. We're here to see house of Jumbili, how it will actually, now because we don't know which party, is it now fracturing back to the URP and TNA. And people also lost in between there as well. But let's just begin with Dr. Eseli on that note, with the SGR. Just briefly, we don't have to really broach this subject extensively.
For the SGR, I said from the word go, it was a monumental ripoff, right from the beginning. In fact, if you go through the Hansard, you'll find that when the debate was in the House about whether the SGR was the correct thing to do, I'm the only member of Parliament who opposed it. And I told people then that history will judge me right, because it was a monumental ripoff. We did not need it. We could have just revamped our meter gauge railway and spared us the agony of this huge expense which can never be recovered. And in the process, I also said that with that kind of borrowing, we must have some substantial returns on that railway, which is not possible with the SGR. So there must be something hidden somewhere for us to go ahead with that project. Right. And actually it's good that the nation has now done what I've always wanted journalists to do, investigative journalism, so they can bring out the truth. Of course, it's going to be denied by everybody who was involved, but eventually the chickens will come home to roost because it is a burden on the Kenyans.
Thank you. Right. And Senator Aaron Cheriot, let's just hear from you as well. What is your take as far as this development is concerned?
It's quite an interesting one. I think I want to take the president on his word that he'll provide to Mark Masai the details of the contract, because it's of interest to me as a Kenyan and also as a leader to understand what really informed this mega project. What were the collaterals that were used, how much we'll be paying on a yearly basis. There's just been, as a project, it's been shrouded in too much mystery and misinformation. Therefore, it is extremely important for the country so that we can move out. I think the people that are charged with this responsibility, either the Treasury or Cabinet Office, it will be important. They don't even have to wait for the president to personally search. By maybe a day like today, given the kind of answer that the president has given, they should have published for the whole country on our newspapers the details of a contract, so that as a country we can get to be properly informed and know that did Kenyans get value for money?
Thank you.
And what are even the project justifications, because there have been also questions of that magnitude.
Thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Otiene Amolo.
Well, good morning, viewers, and good morning.
Morning.
On this SGR, I think the more obvious issues are the ones that Dr. Eseli has spoken to. And it's not new, the question of costs, the question of funding, including the fact that a lot of the Eurobond money was alleged to have been used to fund this. The question of the land scandal around it, and you'll find that a lot of money has been spent on buying land which ought not to have been bought. Most of it was already public. But I only want to speak to two things. First is the fear of what now Nation newspapers brought out, and I welcome the rebirth of investigative journalism. For some time it appears like it's been almost dead. And it raises an issue that is not unique to Kenya. The question of China taking over assets of various countries has arisen, not just in the case of Kenya. And it's a legitimate debate right now in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, and a host of other African countries. And there are countries where this has been alleged to have happened, especially in the Asiatic countries. And around it, therefore, is the question of the use of Kenya's asset as collateral. Around it is the legitimate question of why the law governing this issue should be Chinese law. And any decision and any arbitration must be done in China and not the site of the borrowing. But even more importantly is the allegation around the confidentiality clause, that it must not be disclosed. And on this, therefore, I said the second thing. Let's not wait for the president to give the contract. Let's not bemoan the fact that it has not been shared, because our constitution gives us the right to have it. Under Article 35, under the Access to Information Act. Let, especially the journalists, and I've said this here before, that the media has not yet used sufficiently, like other countries, the right to access information held by the state. Let the nation or any other person concerned test the strength of the Constitution and the Act by seeking from the Ombudsman a copy of this contract and to take it as far as it needs to go.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from Senator Kimani Matangi.
Yes, thanks, Debarl, and once more, good morning. And I think I would also like to take the chance to welcome you back.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you've been away for long, and sometimes it was hard not to miss you. I mean, but otherwise, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Debarl, two things quickly. One, I think that it is high time that we relook at the manner, format, and the way we enter contracts with the Chinese government. I believe it's a high time. Not only in this one, in many. And I say so because, for example, if you look at one of the questions I've been raising consistently is that question of that almost all contracts with the Chinese government, yes, where they give us funding, on that question of arbitration, if there's a dispute, in almost all of them, it is clearly stated that that can only happen in China. I think that is probably one of the areas we would need to look at. Secondly, if you look at probably even the attitude of the Chinese people themselves when they're in the country. It's not long ago. I remember when one of them was being deported at the airport for insulting Kenyans, including the head of state himself. Mm-hmm. And if that is a reflection of probably what many of them have in their minds, probably based on what they know behind the scenes of entering into a contract and the power they wield over us who are the borrowers, probably that should inform us that we should negotiate as equals, because the government of China also has interest in investing their money in this country via those contracts, because those contracts are not free of interest. They're not grants. They're actually loans. And so I think that's one of the areas that we need to look at. But specifically on this one of SGR, Debarl, I'm the chairman of Roads, Transport and Infrastructure in Senate. And I will undertake. Actually, I've been following it very closely, but unfortunately, the House is in recess. And when it is in recess, including all the committees and staff, I would have been very, very, delighted to have been able to get more information on this, because it's a matter of concern to Kenyans. I think I'll promise that immediately we are back to work, then we will pursue this and get the truth. I want to take the president absolutely at his word that indeed there are no assets of this republic that are at risk. But to allay the fears of Kenyans, it is important then that we have it in black and white, let people see. And I believe that's our work, and especially in Parliament as lawmakers. And we can take also the advantage of such to be able to advise as the lawmakers of this country, that probably in the future, when we are entering into such contracts, it's probably more prudent to do it in certain ways. And lastly, Debarl, one of the few issues that I think needs to be raised is when we are giving out contracts to Chinese government and their companies, what local content do we demand that must be included in those contracts? For example, you find that when these guys get contracts worth billions of shillings, there is no requirement, there's no demand that there has to be a certain local content, including in subcontracting, in technology transfer, and such that you find most of the questions being asked is what value addition do those kind of contracts end up leaving with us, other than where they just invest their money, they get their interest and then take off, and we can only get them back when we want them to come and do a similar job, not leaving any value behind in terms of technology transfer. And I've said that because, remember, this was one of the main issues that was raised by the workers of the SGR, that indeed even up to today, although that's also another fact we would want to confirm, that most of the operators, including the train drivers, are Chinese.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. And just briefly, you can tell us when are we coming from the recess, that is the parliament, should we still be biding our time to wait?
We should be back from recess in the beginning of February.
Beginning of February.
So I think mid-February we should have concrete answers.
Right.
Thank you.
Jacob,
good morning. Parliament doesn't have to be in a session for them to deal with such an issue. I think a committee and the one on National Assembly need to deal with issues raised by the Nation article. We don't even need President Uhuru Kenyatta to give Kenyans anything. I think Parliament should be having that document. And I want to say that, to tell my friend Tindamolo, that it is not the work of the media to interpret or enforce the law. That is the work of Parliament. The biggest tragedy of our times, Debarl, is the death of Parliament. And Honorable Heseli, I was in Parliament, I also opposed the issues of SGR. In fact, even what Senator Mamatang is raising about local content, do you know when they were doing this construction, no Kenyan engineers were allowed in there? So that everybody who worked in just laying these roads was from China. As we speak, the SGR, you know recently there were issues where they are only employing Chinese. Kenyans are being supervised by Chinese. In other words, who is responsible for the monies being collected when Kenyans take? In fact, I would encourage Kenyans to shun going with that railway line, because it is a way of transferring our money to China. And we on this particular contract, and I would like to hear from Otiende as a lawyer, why is there no criminality on the people who went and negotiated with these Chinese and never brought that negotiated document to Parliament as per requirements of Article 211? This mandarins in Treasury, if it was their idea, or somebody from Attorney General's office, he must be a criminal, because you cannot go and negotiate on behalf of Kenyans a debt which is said to be the largest capital project ever undertaken in Africa. It's already over $13 billion. So what are we faced with? The president needs to know that his civil servants and politicians have created a project which is criminal in nature and has to do, it's bigger than Goldenberg. It is part of our problems in lack of finance in the economy, lack of money, because we are exporting our own money. And it is just through corruption. Tanzania has built a rail line which is just slightly longer than the one we have. Without borrowing, and in Tanzania, it has cost them way less. So what are we faced with? I mean, if it is possible to do in Tanzania, why are we not able to do it? But my main point is that the DCI, the DPP, and the current Attorney General, and the EACC head who was sworn in yesterday, they need to look at this thing as a crime, because it is a crime. And politicians have benefited financially.
they've benefited financially, but we don't have any stitch of evidence on this, Jacomi Dio.
That is why we are calling on them to investigate it.
All right, but you mentioned before we take a short break that this was not presented. These people that went to negotiate, they did not present this particular contractual agreement to Parliament. Otieno has just mentioned here that, yes, maybe it was a case of the confidentiality clause that may bound them not to. Could that be the case?
It could.
Yeah, then we take a short break. Just very briefly.
Two issues. First of all, in terms of getting the information, and this was my point, Jacoy, that under Article 35 and the Access to Information Act, any Kenyan can demand that information. But to the extent that the journalists are now bemoaning the fact that the president promised to give a copy which he has not given, my point was that they don't have to bemoan that. There are avenues through which any media house or any journalist or any person can actually access that. The second point is Article 211, and I agree with Jacomi Dio that Parliament, and especially the National Assembly, does have a role to play in terms of some of these borrowings, in terms of approval, and even the terms. And the 11th Parliament, under which, or at the time of which this borrowing was done, could have and should have played a role. But speaking for right now, and this is where I also agree with Senator Matangi, if Parliament is to want to seek any specific information under Article 211(2), then it can only do so by resolution, which means it can only do so when Parliament is in session. That is not to say that it shouldn't have done this earlier, but it's to say that if it is to do it now, as an individual parliamentarian, your limited access is like any other Kenyan under Article 35 of the Constitution. But as Parliament, under Article 211(2), then you require a resolution of the House. Yes.
Right, and of course, even the deliberations yesterday here was that even under Article 35, you mentioned, of the access to information, that is sub-Article 3, that the state shall publish and publicize any important information affecting the nation. So the president does not really have to hand over any document to anyone. I think this is the onus just of a state to publish to, yes, right. We take a short break right now. When we circle back, of course, we take a keener look on what is happening on the party politicals or the party politics scene. And of course, there's formation and also misinformation as far as the political parties are concerned. We bring perspective and clarity on this on the other side of the break. So don't go away. Much more coming up when we circle back. Looking at what also Gado has drawn for us today, if we just pick up that particular editorial cartoon and look at what is happening within Jubilee right now, that is Murkomen and Company and Murathe and Company. It's a dogfight, really. And we have also Arap Singh and Antoinette there and Right Honorable Raila Odinga just watching what is really happening right now. Maybe you want to comment on that in light of the new Monica Jumbili.
I think it's not so accurate because there's replacement of certain characters. Because what I've seen, for sure, I've seen Murathe in a dogfight, but it's not with the person that you put there. I've never seen Senator Murkomen respond to him, so it's not accurate. But this is what I can say. Part of what you are watching, if very high-ranking members of a party, like Senator Wamatangi, have not commented on this issue, if myself, and I wouldn't wish to blow my own trumpet, but to be sincere, among the members of parliament, I'm the oldest member of the party, because last parliament, the members of Jubilee were from either TNA, URP, UDF, New Ford Kenya, and those other parties. But when I was elected to parliament last term, I came in on a Jubilee party ticket, and still the same right now. Therefore, when I speak with authority as someone who has been in the party long enough and understand the things that are going on. What I can say is that I want to take the words from our party leaders. The same interview that you played a few minutes ago, where the president was speaking in Mombasa, I believe you heard him loud and clear. And he said, please don't get it twisted. ODM, the party that we are in a handshake agreement with, have their own political plans. As a party, we have our own plans. The deputy party leader has also spoken to the matter. And therefore, this business where the media is bringing before us political rejects and non-members of Jubilee Party to comment on party matters should come to a stop. Because at the end of the day, who will you trust most? The members of a party, that is, for example, have you seen, for example, elected members of parliament, apart say for one or two, most of them have been quiet on these issues because they clearly understand what is going on. If there's differences of opinion, it does not mean that the party is crumbling. And I'd be lying if I said that there aren't issues that have got the potent of dividing the party. But how they are being handled, to me, is that it is being sorted the right way. I am aware that there are engagements at a very high level to try and contain some of these issues that are being raised by various members. But the most important thing is to take the word from the party leader and his deputy who have spoken. The rest of the people will come and go. Murathe, you guys, you remember we were here a few months ago and I warned you against profiling, and you're pumping too much power into Murathe's head, power that he didn't have. What eventually happened to him? He just took a walk, and that was the end of the story. So it's the same with some of these people that you're giving attention to. Why would you want to believe Martha Karua or Peter Kenneth on Jubilee Party affairs? What local standard do they have? They absolutely do not even understand how this party operates. And therefore, let them be busy with what is their responsibility and the things that Kenyans gave them to do. If they didn't give you a job, then stay at home.
All right, maybe we can hear from Dr. Eseli, especially also on the editorial cartoon that we have in the Daily Nation. This is still on Jubilee Party and the Jubilee succession. Look at what they've done for us today. This is Munene, Jubilee succession politics, and we can see the Corinthian pillars that is holding this particular party, actually. One of them is cracked, and one now is actually Uhuru Kenyatta, who is holding the Jubilee and the handshake. In light of what is going on this, maybe you want to weigh in on that.
What amuses me is that what Murathe said is nothing new. I've said it on this show so many times.
Yes.
That the presidency is a unit, and the two of them have had their 10 years, half shared government. And when Uhuru exits, the DP should also go. Because what does he want to do that he has not already done? And he has already been in power for 10 years. I've said that on this show many times. So just because it came from Murathe, who is within Jubilee, it became such a thorn. But it's something that we've been saying here every time. And the truth is, when Jubilee Party was formed, I remember remarking that Jubilee Party, the abbreviation is JP. I said that's just problems for Kenya. And indeed it's coming out to show that it's just problems. Look at the economy, look at the education sector, look at the health sector, it's just problems. Now, when you say Jumbili, I totally agree. Because essentially, Jubilee, while they try to form one party, yes, they are registered as one party, but they're essentially a coalition between two communities. That's what essentially they are. But they have they have garnished it with a few other communities. But you heard some people from Rift Valley saying that Raphael Tuju was just put there to give a face of Kenya. And otherwise he brought nothing and he can actually go. You heard them. So, you know, it's already telling you that these are just garnishing. Otherwise, really, it's Jumbili, just a coalition of two. Now, the interesting thing is, like this fallout in the other parties,
yes,
the architect of it is Jubilee. You see, this is what they did, craftily. They do a handshake with the leader of ODM, and then they leave out the others, and they insist that the others should stay out, so they stay out. Meanwhile, what does Jubilee do? It starts cannibalizing the other parties, like what they are doing now. I know how they are doing it. It's by blackmail. They tell elected leaders that if you want to development, you have to visit Sugoi, you have to visit Karen, you have to visit where, and in the process, like the newly elected fellows, they feel, okay, to get development, I must, you know, they don't realize that Parliament is the one that makes the budget, and if you want development, you should fight during the budget making. So what they are doing is, they are blackmailing elected leaders of these other parties to sort of go towards the Jubilee side, and that way cannibalize these other parties like ANC, Ford Kenya, like what's happening in Ukambani. I say that's a script straight from the Jubilee cooking pot, so that they can destabilize Kalonzo. So it's you know what they are trying to do is to reduce so that by the time we get to 2022, there will be no other relevant competitor. And like especially for Western, they know that if Western united, then there would be trouble for them. And yet they have always benefited from fishing from the Western port. They always fish from there. So they keep Western destabilized by handing out goodies and, you know, saying come for development so that they can come and do some harambes for you and maybe bring a bus for a school. As if you don't have CD, you have to buy the buses. You know, it's just a con game. And I think Kenyans should wake up to this and realize that, hey, 2022 is about 3 and so years away, and we need to ask ourselves hard questions. Do we want Jubilee to continue after 2022 with the havoc they have wreaked on Kenya so far? Do we really want to? So they should not be hoodwinked by this smoke screen you are seeing.
Yes.
That, oh, Jubilee is divided, what. It's always been divided.
Right, but the question will be again.
So it's not news.
Will the party hold until 2022?
Whether they hold or they don't, they have something up their sleeve.
You expect him to tell you it will hold?
There's something up there. I didn't say it will hold. I said whether they hold or they don't.
All right.
What I keep on telling Kenyans is, be very wary of Jubilee. Jumbili is the correct acronym. This is a coalition of two communities with garnishing of people like Raphael Tuju and so on, just to try and add some flavor. But essentially, it's just two.
So were we not really seeing the Jumbili from the word go, or maybe people were just mealy mouth because they didn't want to speak it out?
We were seeing it, but we were too afraid to do anything because
speak about it.
They also use some tactics of intimidation. So
all right.
People are afraid.
Dr. Osiede,
you would be accused of hate speech.
What was your perception?
Last week on this show, I said there was trouble in paradise, the paradise of Jubilee. My friend Aaron Chirurut was not there, but Wamatangi was there and he said there was no problem. Then I attended...
Wamatangi said there was no problem?
Yes, he said there's no problem in paradise. Paradise is at peace. It is no problem. I attended some functions in the course of thereafter, and I also watched other functions thereafter that demonstrated acutely that there's a problem. And therefore, it is clear to me that what my brother, Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, says, and what my brother Matangi said last week, just means they're living in denial. Secondly, in terms of this cartoon,
the
Gado cartoon,
yes,
it is very interesting when you analyze it.
Yes.
First of all, it is telling that the word Jubilee does not appear anywhere, which means in the eyes of the cartoonist, and Cheriot, this is not me, this is the cartoonist, Jubilee does not exist. What exists are two factions of whatever they are cannibalizing each other. And what I'm curious about is when they say Murkomen and Co., I don't know whether Cheriot is the company. And when they say Muredi and company, I don't know whether Muamatangi is the company. They will let us know. Thirdly,
maybe that those companies that the Jubilee they say is talking about. Yeah.
Thirdly, is what the cartoonist has chosen to to depict where the president stands with the PM on one side and the DP on the other. I think that any analysis of this cartoon depicts really where there is. The truth is, NASA is limping, and we've had that conversation before, but Jubilee is crawling. In my estimation, by the time we are talking about 2022, I think most likely we'll have had a new entity. I think new entities are afoot. They are unlikely to be NASA as it was, because in part of that NASA, like our friend Dr. Halwale, who I think is one of your deputy leaders, I think is now on this other side of Murkomen and Co.
So he's being cannibalized.
Yes, he's being cannibalized. So that's what I see. But thirdly, and this is something we've said before, it's not whether the deputy president can stand for president, but it's a question of whether he should stand for president. And on that, I have always maintained that he should not, for so many reasons. We can go into that. We went into it partly last week. We can still go into it. But what is important in this is how quickly the members of what was Jubilee ran away from their leader. David Murade, for all intents and purposes, at all material time, has always been the face of Jubilee. In fact, last week I asked, he was the deputy chair of Jubilee. Who was the chair? The members here could not even remember. I think Wamatangi thereafter remembered some name which even now he might not remember. So David Murade has always been, other than the president and the deputy, has been the leader of Jubilee. So when Aaron Cheriot says none only, those are non-elected members, you've not had members of, I mean, who are they lying to? They know that when you are leader, you're de facto chair. Matang is now checking the name of the chair.
He's Googling.
the real name of the real chair of Jubilee. I mean, there's trouble in paradise. When the captain of the ship jumps ship, that ship is in problems. And so that's really all I will say on this. I think that not too much time should be spent on debating on whether there's a problem, because there's a problem. Perhaps what should be focused on is, one, what is the implication of that problem legally and constitutionally in Kenya right now? But two, what is the political ramifications in future? That is where we should be focusing.
Wamatangi, so your Google search is coming up with what? Let's just find out your Google search and you tell us.
Debarl, of course you expect that at a time like this, Eseli and Otiende Amolo will have a good time. And of course we had a very good time during when the NASA ship was sinking. But only to disappoint them. And Otiende, you are intentionally misquoting me. You said there was trouble in paradise. I said there were activities in paradise.
The activities.
Now he's but Debarl, it is hilarious how Kenyans can become creative, because I had not heard about this Jumbili. But I mean, that's the creativity of Kenyans, and that's why we are a happy country. But I want to say two things. First, I said this before, I'll say it again, that when we came to Parliament in 2017, that concept or even the terminology Jumbili would not apply at all, because we came in elected, all of us, under the ticket of one party, Jubilee. Not like before when we went to deposit an agreement, a coalition agreement in the earlier arrangement of 2013. This time, the parties were formally collapsed. We formed one party, and everybody was elected on a Jubilee ticket. And that's why, Debarl, even as I point out on a few things that I think Eseli is very wrong about, but I would want to say precisely what I've been saying. To a few who are in Jubilee, who have made quite a few remarks that are unfortunate, that should not have been made, coming from probably either ignorance, lack of vision, or failure to comprehend issues the way they should. Because, one thing that we must realize from that arrangement, Debarl, is that when you're in Jubilee, you have nowhere to run to. You can't, there's no, even in law, you can't escape. And so even that assertion or the prediction by Otiende Amolo that there will be other formations or other parties, it is not availed for in law. There is nowhere to go. We have to maintain our house the way it is, properly, keep it, and make sure that we don't ruin it, because you can't go anywhere else. The law is very clear. If you want to exit Jubilee, then go for re-election. And that's the law, and look for another party. And so, so even that concept is not anywhere within our minds. It's not anything we are thinking about. And Eseli, I want to correct you when you say that this is a unity of two communities or two people with what you're calling garnishing. And the only thing that you need to look at is the formation of our parliamentary leadership. You have names like Duale, Shaban, Murkomen, Washiali, Lusaka from all those communities. And if you look at I spoke about parliamentary leadership only. You just need to look at that spectrum, and that tells you that is, by the way, the only party that is legally elected. And also remember that is the party that formed government this year, that has got the true face of Kenya, that you can credibly talk about. And for all intent and purposes, Eseli, you'd be the last man to speak about anything about national representation, knowing that the party that you come from, that the chairman of the party is from your community. The vice chairman of your party, and you, the secretary, is all of you are from the same village.
For your information,
from a sub-tribe, all of you. So there is nothing you can tell us. I mean, your boss is rectangular from your sub-tribe. You are the Secretary General. Okay. Halwale is your vice chairman, although we entertain him and we have welcomed him with us. So you know what I'm trying to say to you. All right. What I'm trying to say to you.
Let him finish.
What I'm trying to say to you is that you would be the last man. The least qualified. To make those kind of comments. You have because you don't have you don't believe it in the first place. Now, lastly, Debarl, I want to say this very clearly, and this is my point of view. I have said it before, that we are clear in our minds why the people of Kenya re-elected us in 2017. It is from the track record, and we were the same people that were elected in 2013. And from what Kenyans believed that we did for those 5 years, they gave us the mandate one more time to be able to redo it. And we have promised we shall redo it. We are not in denial, as anyone here might suggest. We fully know that there are issues that we must address, but we have not lost our focus. We know what we are doing.
Thank you.
And if anybody is expecting that there are games under the table, or that they are waiting for a hand to fall, like the proverbial hyena, there will be no hands that will fall.
All right. Thank you.
We are walking to the wire.
Let's hear from Jacob Midio.
Well, I am amused. How come when Eseli is talking, he is clear? I'm sure viewers are understanding. When Otiende talks, he's so clear. I'm sure viewers are understanding. Now, when the two gentlemen here, the two, what do you call Jubilee two?
Jubilee.
Jubilee. They're talking. This guy is angry. He's abusing Murathe. And let me tell you, my young senator brother, never ignore Murathe. Because Murathe, he is being abused because he's saying what nobody is brave enough to say. How do you ignore somebody who is so close to the president, comes from the president's village, and he has been the chairman of your party? You know, that is just being disdainful. Let me tell you, the marriage of Jubilee, the Mbili, was just about The Hague. Now that The Hague is over, they have nothing in common. What is Jubilee's ideology? Political parties believe in something. Jubilee, Wamatangi says that they were re-elected. First of all, they were never re-elected. The Supreme Court, Otiende was the lawyer. So when you come to national television to claim you are re-elected, nobody re-elected you. Even with the theft, you did not win. That is why the country is in disarray, and that is why the handshake was necessary. Really, let us reason with the Kenyans. And when you said you are re-elected based on what you did, the SGR we have just been talking about was cobbled up. Why was the contract of SGR signed again in 2014 when the project was a Raila Kibaki project? Was the sole reason of theft. Sole reason of theft. So when Wamatangi says Kenyans can re-elect you based on those, and many, many others, So my take is we need to expect a new configuration, political one, because it will come. And let me correct my friend Wamatangi. It is not only members of parliament who are members of a political party. So if a law says you can't cross, you go back for re-election, Murathe, who has been chairman of your party, is not a member. Who has been running your party, he is not a member of parliament. In fact, he is my friend. He has told me he's not even interested in becoming a member of parliament. He was not even a candidate. So let us guide this country in a way that we hope we will get a political party with some ideology. Not these ones you wake up and make in terms of tribal numbers, be they NASA or Jubilee, because Jubilee has been a bad example. Where Kibaki left us a united country. Jubilee came with a two-tribe formula, just counting individuals. Then they add the power of the government. Then they are saying they are a large party. Really the wrong direction to go. What we need to do, and I want to plead with my friend Wamatangi, is that you can't talk so much and not talk about the main question. That cartoon which just depicts President Uhuru and Raila, that cartoon seems to say that Ruto is done and out. I disagree with everybody, including Murathe, who say the presidency is shared, so they should go. That to me is unconstitutional. Let Ruto be a candidate. Let us talk to the voters about his ability. Let us tell voters how much Jubilee stole under their watch, so that we can see if somebody can wake up and go and vote for them. But don't take away his constitutional right.
All right. But I don't know what Otiende said, that now the NASA party is hobbling. Is it hobbling? It's limping, yeah? But looking also at what Stano had drawn yesterday, yeah, and this is what maybe Right Honorable Raila Odinga has been doing to NASA, and now he's doing to Jubilee, according to the cartoonist, that we have a fresh clod of soil where NASA now is resting. NASA rest in peace. And now it's moved over. The Jubilee actually is sick. It's on drips. It's taking a bed rest right now in hospital. And we can see who is actually trying to, cut that particular tube there with a handsaw.
I agree with Stano that in all these political party problems, that man with the accent.
So we want to see
Jacoyo's cousin is a problem in all these things. But there are two or three things that I want to quickly say, Debarl. Number one, I think it will be of interest to, and it's really difficult engaging Jacoyo because you don't know at what point he becomes independent, at what point he becomes ODM member. In fact, he's all moved up into one.
In fact, I really wanted Jacoyo to weigh in on this because Jacoyo is partyless. right now.
But when he speaks,
how
he looks.
No. And we expect, just a moment, and we expect, they normally say, you cannot be in the picture, or you cannot be seeing the picture clearly if you are in the frame. You need to come out of the frame for you to see the picture clearly.
He can't.
So looking at this cartoon, if you may have it back for Jacoy to just talk to us, you are independent.
I'm very independent.
Supposed to be.
I'm very independent. But what I said in my last contribution, that even NASA doesn't have an ideology. And as I've said here in your show, Debarl, that I watched the campaigns of Jubilee, and then I watched the campaigns of NASA, and I was outside. And they were telling Kenyans nothing. They never told us how they would fix our economy.
Thank you.
The campaigns were hollow. It was all based on tribal numbers. And that is where the problem of our country is. I am independent, and I'm not a member of, I've never been a member of NASA.
You're waiting for new political formations to come up, maybe. Now the crumbling of Jubilee and NASA, then maybe there will be a new party that maybe they might approach you. Or
no, I'm not looking forward.
You're not looking forward?
No, I'm not.
Okay, still it was on
it's a little difficult, but anyway, he has tried, he has attempted. Never mind the fact that when he speaks, how he looks, everything is ODM in him, but that we can ignore. What I wanted to tell Esel is this. Speaking about Jubilee, you assert or you claim that it is a party of two tribes and that kind of an argument. But I just wish to remind you that out of the 47 counties that we have in Kenya, Jubilee has elected officials in 41 out of 47. That is from MCA all the way up to the president.
Yes.
That is not a party of two tribes. That's a national party. And therefore, actually, it is the largest political formation of our time that has been assembled. And therefore, when you see the kind of hiccups that are being faced at the moment, that is expected. Because when you have a grouping of politicians who've come together, and the kind of project that is being implemented, trying to get them all to sing and agree to one voice, then some of these things that you're hearing are bound to happen. But I must also be quick to add that a lot of the stories you're reading in the media are actually products of fertile imagination from people who are reading all sorts of things, that people get excited by. Maybe president and the deputy haven't been seen in public together for 1 week. Then it becomes news that, oh, they're no longer talking and that kind of a thing. I mean, for heaven's sake, that theory was put to test over the weekend. The newspapers were telling us that same morning that they are not even on talking terms, only for them to appear together later on for 2 consecutive days. Yesterday, you have just read for us that they were in a 5-hour long meeting.
Yes.
You know, and therefore, the thing that we keep on insisting, and I say this, please, to our viewers and to Jubilee supporters, because it is important you listen to either Wamatangi or
So
I.
You think that is misinformation?
The rest of the panel are the least qualified people to address you on matters Jubilee. We can discuss anything else, but you can be assured that Otiende, given a chance, will even tell you that Jubilee is non-existent at the moment. And that is expected because we are competitors. But he wants us to forget that at the moment in the country, almost all political parties are facing troubles of their own. In his own ODM, where Otiende comes from, we are aware that there are functions, one led by Orengo and himself, and the other one led by their party leaders. Haven't we read about it in the press? Haven't we discussed it here?
Otiende, is that
you
true?
know,
Which
of course he will deny. Why are you
in?
asking him the obvious? He will never.
Let him finish. Are you done?
You know?
Yes.
So, and therefore, these kind of challenges that appear before political parties is nothing unusual. If Eseli wants us to have a debate on the record of Jubilee and the things that we have been able to do in this country, I am more than ready to do it because I know what we have been able to achieve. And therefore, for him to continuously mislead the country on each and every morning that there's absolutely nothing that this government has done for people is misleading.
Okay, but
that is why.
Yes.
That is why, and I agree with Senator Wamatangi, there is no way Jubilee would have amassed the number of votes that they got last election if they had not engaged themselves in rolling out serious development in our country. That is why people gave them a chance. The only rider that I'd put to it is that I'd wish to put a caveat and a warning that as a political party,
we are not building on the momentum that we had from 2013 to 2017.
Thank you.
The last 1 year, all we are hearing, instead of the big four, we are being sold to an amorphous thing called building bridges. I think it is time as a party we realize that while we may want to do the handshake and all this other business, Kenyans gave us a mandate to run this country and to do meaningful development. That is where our focus should be. All these other things are distractions.
So all of a sudden, the Building Bridges initiative has become an amorphous thing to you.
Yes.
You've been supportive of it from this show.
I
from
have
the beginning.
said you shouldn't, you know, when you give it a weight between big four and building bridges, which one should you give more attention to? Of course, the big four. That is the one that can change the lives of Kenyans. Building bridges is an elitist problem. It's about us politicians. Has absolutely nothing to do with Kenyans. Let's be sincere.
Okay. Let's say from Eseli.
I think I'm in that unfortunate situation that when you pose a question, I'm the first one to have a bite, and then others respond and throw brickbats. So I have to come back and put things in perspective.
Yes.
You know, we talk of the big four. I pray that the big four doesn't exactly succeed. You know why? Because it will be a big avenue for grand corruption as known by Jubilee. Jubilee has been very, very corrupt. They have virtually brought the economy to its knees. So the big four will be another avenue for that. Now, when he talks about the unity of Jubilee, I happen to have attended the inauguration of Archbishop Philip Anyolo. I was there with the Honorable Tienda Amolo. And we saw something very interesting. Wherever the deputy president is in a function like that, we expect that he's representing also the head of state. But something very interesting, the head of state had sent a cabinet secretary with the speech on his behalf. And actually the cabinet secretary read the president's speech. So I don't think they were reading from the same script, because that is not expected to happen protocol-wise. And when we talk about the face of Kenya, as Honorable Senator Wamatangi says, that they have a face of Kenya, I would like to inform him that most MPs of Jubilee from the hood of the neck of the wood where I come from, Western, are in Parliament courtesy of the judiciary and poor prosecution of petitions by NASA. So that one, when you heard the story of the Farangaya computer. So that forced face of Kenya is a lie you can't live very long with. And I think you need to get used to that, because if you talk that way, then how many MCAs you have in that region will actually inform you more of what kind of support you have, despite this forced face of Kenya that you have, which Rift Valley members have themselves admitted that they brought in Raphael Tuju just to give it a face of Kenya, not that he was really relevant. And in fact, they said they should take a walk. So I think the chickens are coming home to roost, and however much you try to escape it, while I agree with you that we should strive to have national parties, it is very good for us to have national parties. But that's why coalitions came up, because the coalitions also create the same scenario. Why we did that was because we have an experience of the monolithic KANU regime, and we realized that if we go that way, we will suffer. And actually, when I look at it, Jubilee is trying to recreate that KANU scenario, when KANU was Baba na Mama and was riding roughshod over everybody, and actually fomenting trouble in the opposition, getting them to defect to KANU and so on. And that's exactly what Jubilee is doing now, saying that you want development, come to Sugoi, come to Karen, or come to wherever, then you will get development. And then it's just the same script, only that the actors might be different. So it's important that Kenyans wake up to what is happening. It's unfortunate that most of the voters now who are very young did not live through the KANU era. So what Jubilee is doing now might not ring a bell for them. For us, who are there then, it actually gives us a sense of deja vu. We realize that, whoops, that animal we kicked out in 2002 is creeping back, wearing the same clothes, but with a different name. They are red just like what KANU was then. So they actually, when they took off, when TNA took off from KANU, they took off with the clothes, the red clothes of KANU, which then they bequeathed on Jubilee. And apparently, apart from the clothing that they wear, the thinking is still the same as what KANU used to do. And that's what I think Kenyans must be very wary of. If anybody tries to say that the handshake and building bridges is wrong, I think that is the height of dishonesty. Because really, we know where we are coming from. Whether you appreciate the handshake or not, but that definitely has made a big difference in the country, that even as we disagree now, we disagree in a civil manner, not in that kind of aggressive manner that we were disagreeing before. So if anybody buries their heads in the sand and thinks that the handshake and the building bridges initiative is wrong, then I think they don't understand Kenya.
All right, Otieno Molo, and then we look at what is actually on the front page of the Standard, because I think also now this is spilling over to other political parties as well, getting affected on this. But seasons of rebellion, if we may just pick up on that, we have now also new realignment as far as Wiper Party is concerned. 3 governors announced formation of People's Empowerment Movement to edge him out from being the region's kingpin. This is Kalonzo Musyoka. ODM party leader Raila Odinga, Wycliffe Oparanya wants him to back Aluya. Also, Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula, his deputy and former Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale, has written him off and is now supporting DP Ruto's presidential bid. ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi differed with Secretary General and nominated MP Godfrey Osotsi. MPs Justus Murunga and Titus Kamala have vowed to back DP Ruto. And also new developments, I think, also in the Standard today is that Musalia Mudavadi is seeking a running mate from Mount Kenya as well. So looking at this recent development that we're seeing and the formation, especially with the Wiper Party, maybe before I come to Otieno, just briefly, Eseli, you have your deputy chair.
Deputy party leader.
Deputy party leader. This is Boni Khalwale. He has now been seen toing and froing with Deputy President William Ruto. And from the political party standpoint of view, you as the Secretary General, how are you receiving this? Have you taken any action? Is it a disciplinary action? Or as a Kenyan, you're free? Even if you have a party that you're affiliated to, you can actually, join hands with any other party or political leader.
Luckily for Boni Khalwale, he was not elected. So he does not have to give up any seat for him to leave the party. So he's actually free to do so.
He was not elected?
Well, he didn't win the governorship of Kakamega. If he had, then, and we insisted that he leaves, then he will lose the governor position and go back for a by-election. So for him, leaving the party is much, much easier. It's like David Mbrother leaving Jubilee. So him leaving the party, there's no problem.
But are you comfortable with what
No, we are not comfortable with what he's doing.
But why have you been mealy-mouthed as a party yourself?
No,
You've not had any...
We've not been. It's just, again, the media. His
party leader
what
do you mean the media? And you're always here on Tuesday.
No, I haven't been here for quite a while.
What do you mean?
This is what it is.
This is says the media.
No, this
you're
is what
always
it
here
is.
on Tuesday.
You are asking if you
always sit here with your party. You're here together with Boni Khalwale.
You are asking. We haven't disagreed here, but you are asking what action are we taking?
Yes.
The Kakamega branch has already sat and done their resolutions, which they have forwarded to the headquarters. And we are going to be meeting, management is going to be meeting by the end of this week to deliberate through what the branch has sent to us. You have to follow procedure.
Is it not true that Boni Khalwale is actually following in the direction of your party leader?
No, it's not.
Why are you denying the obvious? Why are you misleading us?
It is not true.
What is the direction of a party leader?
It looks like he seems to know my party leader better than I do. But actually, what you had asked me to do was to go to what was happening in the political parties. And I said this from the beginning, that right now, political parties are facing a crucial time because...
No, I just wanted you to clarify on the Boni Khalwale.
The Boni Khalwale issue,
yes,
I've told you that we've got the report from the Kakamega branch. That's where we need to start from. And they have sent us their recommendations, which we are going to deliberate on and make our decisions, including disciplinary action if necessary.
So disciplinary action might be ousting Boni Khalwale from his party. So
well, I cannot preempt what the disciplinary committee will
You'll be crossing over to the Jumbili.
Yes, but you see, you need to understand where it's starting from. And I said this from the beginning. If you notice,
he wants to blame Jubilee.
Boni Khalwale of recent is very philanthropic, including.
That's not honest.
It's very philanthropic.
He stood in public himself,
and
he has declared. He declared in public, and he said, "Now I am working with the Deputy President William Ruto."
Correct.
No, let him finish his
so why you second
guessing? Okay.
Halwale has got very many defenders.
Let him finish his train of thought. Our Matangi, please.
He has very many defenders here.
But
listen, you are not going to blame me for Halwale's moves. Those are Halwale's moves.
No, we're not blaming you.
Okay, thank you.
He knows the political parties.
All right, thank you.
What he wants.
Thank you.
He knows the political parties.
Thank you, Eseli.
And we are going to, whatever disciplinary action we will take.
Listen to one of the rebels in political parties.
Debarl, you've allowed this gentleman to say so much, some of which I need to respond to, and then also talk about the newer issues.
Yes.
But let me try to be brief. First of all, I've listened keenly to Aaron Cheruiyot and my brother, Senator Matangi. And everything they spew is purely escapism or diversionary. And I think it's unfortunate. They speak from both sides of their mouth. In fact, when I look them straight in the eye, you see that what he's saying he does not believe in. He's just saying it for national, consumption. But I'm sure if there was no TV here, we'd be having a different conversation. First of all, when you say, the deputy president met with the president for 5 hours, so there's no problem. ODM has factions led by Orengo and Raila, that, that Raila is the problem as depicted in that, cartoon, that NASA is dead. Let's examine this. For starters, Raila is not in Jubilee. And we in ODM have never joined Jubilee. The fact that there's a handshake and the fact that we agreed to what you call reduction of hostilities does not mean we're in Jubilee. So Jubilee's problems cannot be attributed to Raila. The implosion in Jubilee, please don't drag Raila into it. Just deal with it. And you cannot say there's no problem in Jubilee, then you see a cartoon, then you say Raila is the problem that is causing Jubilee to die. Then what, you're speaking from both sides of your mouth. Either you agree there's a problem, or there's no problem, therefore you can't blame anybody for that problem. So you see, that's the basic demonstration. That's number one. Number two is that when, as Dr. Selisimiu says, and I was present at that faction, you see a situation where the deputy president is present and is not deputizing the president, then there's a problem. Because the deputy president deputizing the president is not even a matter of courtesy. It is a matter of law. Yes. Article 147, which talks of the functions of the deputy president, 147.1, says that the deputy president shall be the principal assistant of the president and shall deputize for the president. Shall. By the time a decision is being made that he should not, unless you are blind, and even the blind would still see that there's a problem. So what then Cheruiyot tries to do is, instead of facing that, is to try and twist it. Hold on, Matangi. I was silent when you were speaking. To try and find solace.
Let him finish.
So Cheruiyot is trying to find solace in introducing issues of ODM, hoping that by saying, there are two factions in ODM led by Orengo and led by Raila. Let me assure you that unlike yourselves right now, for us we are fortunate that we always and will always have only one leader, and it's Raila Amolo Odinga. You can create, and there's been a consistent attempt by one media house to try and create that image that there's an issue. Let me assure you, no matter how much one tries, for us, we only have one leader, and we will always only have that one leader. Thirdly, and on that issue, your attack on the Building Bridges initiative is symptomatic of the Tanga-Tanga dilemma. The Tanga-Tanga squad, of which I'm sure you're a proud member, is one that is totally unhappy with the handshake. Because although the handshake is good for this country, it is not good for their immediate ambitions. But knowing, as Eseli was saying, that no matter where you stand from, everyone agrees that the BBI is good for this country and for the future of this country. So the Tanga-Tanga squad, by night, plots against the BBI, by day praises it. But I'm happy that today, even by day, we have found you to find, no solace in it. There cannot be any suggestion that the Big Four initiative is bigger than the Building Bridges initiative. The Big Four initiative is a good initiative internal to Jubilee in terms of what they want to achieve within the next 4 years. The Building Bridges initiative is good for the entire country in terms of our entire future and future generations. So to say, to try and put the Big Four above the BBI just shows how raw the political ambition within the next 4 years is. Let me now talk about the headline standards, the headlines in the standard newspapers. The question of the season of rebellion, I want to say only two things. First is about the Ukambani dilemma. I've seen that the 3 governors of Ukambani have now risen and are up in arms against Kalonzo Musyoka. And the first question you ask is, what's all this about? It can't be about what they say, because what they say is that they are focused on bringing development to Ukambani. If that was the issue, they don't need to pick any war or any fight with Kalonzo Musyoka, because first, he's not an elected leader. They can't take him home because he's already home. And they can do the development without having to attack him. So it's not about development. In my view, it's about 2 things. First of all, quite honestly, the 3 have each at one time had a beef against Kalonzo. Mutua has always had issues against Kalonzo and believes that it should be the first president from that region, and he has said it. Charity Ngilu has run for presidency, and everyone knows that at all material time has been contesting for Ukambani leadership against Kalonzo, but quietly and cleverly in this last election coiled up to deputize Kalonzo in that sense, but I think has now risen. Professor Kibwana has always been uncomfortable with Wiper, and you remember previously he did not run on Wiper. And in this last election, for him to run on Wiper, he had to demand, and I think he was given a direct ticket. But with the social media has built Professor Kibwana to the point that he believes he should be the next president of this country. So each 3 of them quietly hold political aspirations and with tremendous respect, illusions of grandeur. And therefore, they all think that that's where they should be. I actually think that what that is about is what I believe will be the new political formation. And they believe that they can be in a position to upstage Kalonzo in negotiating something in the new political formation. But first of all, there are 3, and there's no way 3 people can lead, collectively. The last bit on the Ford Kenya dilemma. On this, I disagree with my brother, Dr. Selisimi, and I've said it before. I think that what Boni Halalu is doing is that he has upstaged his party leader. His party leader, and I said this way before it became public, was always oscillating towards the deputy president. But Boni Halwale, I think, realizing that that's where the party leader was looking at, did not wait for the patience of that growth to come. He jumped ship, and by the time the party leader realized, he was deeper in there and in a higher position than the party leader can possibly negotiate. So I think that Boni is right to associate with whoever he wants. I think that his fortunes probably have turned for the better lately, but I think in doing so, he has paid to Wetangula in a very difficult position, because where he wanted to go, somebody has gone. And where he was, he has really burnt his bridges, and now he's in a dilemma where he'll go. I sympathize with my brother Eseli, because you're a man of principle. So I don't know where your party leader will take you on this one.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from Kimani Matangi also as we prepare our headline thoughts. We are strapped for time.
Yes, Debarl, let me make this clear with my brother Otiende Amolo, really. You know, and especially because you've actually even quoted the law and so on, but my colleague Senator Cheriot said earlier, actually some of these things you're seeing happening is as a result of some of the insinuations, utterances that are being made by outsiders, like Otiende Amolo. You know, because Otiende Amolo, with all due respect, Debarl, you know, the installation of a bishop in Kisumu is a very important function. But that is not a state or national function. That you would use the Constitution to quote that this was the process of protocol that was used. Indeed, you know, once, because when you hype that kind of talk, probably over small things in between, that probably even the deputy president, then being president, did not find necessary because he's still the deputy president when he's not functioning. And so elevating it to look like it is if it was on a national day, you would be saying this is an issue that I would have to quote the law. I'm saying that because for many reasons that can happen. Sometimes even myself, I go to functions. Like, for example, if I'm in a funeral or in a place, and you find a member of parliament who is a member of the National Assembly, and by protocol, I'll be either speaking last. We'll speak sometimes last after me, depending on maybe what time they have arrived and so on. I'm saying we shouldn't blow this thing out of proportion. Now, I wanted to say to Dr. Eseli, I find it a bit interesting and a disservice to your colleagues when you say that members of parliament or National Assembly who are with you in the House are there courtesy of what you call vifaranga via computer, not wanting to acknowledge, not wanting to acknowledge, or even failing, Eseli, to realize that members of parliament get elected in probably hostile areas where their parties are not even popular based on their track record. And I think it is unfair to your colleagues for you to imagine that they just have to be elected on the party that you front in that area, not because they have a record, but just because you're from that party. I think you do need to do them the honor and let people know that in this country, and I want to tell you, for example, in my own county in Kiambu, the MCA for the ward that is mostly populated by members of my community is a Luo. The MCA for the next sub-county, which is highly populated by members of my community, is a Nation, is a Mwindi. That is the way the country is going. And so this business of trying to imagine that people can only get elected because they come from a party that you're fronting around that area. And anyway, we have already said it here, a party which even your own people are starting to flee from, because a party must have content, it must have vision, it must have direction. So once it's empty, people don't want to be there. Now, lastly, because of some of the comments made here by Otende Amolo on building bridges there, we believe, and I've said this before here, that for us to realize the Big Four agenda and get on with our vision, it is important for us to have a peaceful environment. And for that matter, when the president and the former prime minister said to this country that they have shaken hands, they're looking for a way where we can restore peace and get to work, we absolutely have had no problem with it. We support it. The only issue that we have raised with it is if then it is used clandestinely or by other interested parties behind to propagate other political intentions, then that is when it becomes a problem. But for the intention that it was formed, we fully support it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Jacob Mideo finally, and then also we give our closing remarks, 30 seconds.
Well, Debarl, I thought building bridges helps Wamatangi.
Absolutely, that's what I said.
And I want to encourage you to support it, because I realize on this show,
that's what I said.
You have never said publicly that you are supporting Ruto's bid for presidency, because you fear offending.
Do you want me to say it again?
You are talking. I was just listening.
Let him finish.
You want me to say it?
Okay. Let him finish.
Say it.
I have said categorically.
Yeah.
No. If you he's winding up. Huh?
I'm winding up.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, because
you want him to declare.
Because what the things the handshake is supposed to correct is this issue of vifaranga vya kuku. Because if you have the Jubilee MPs in Western Kenya, do you know they all got the same number of votes? It's a number of percentages. Somebody did it using a computer. And to say that it is not true is to say that IBC is correct. You know, Cheriot told us here once that he was going to bring for us the results of the last election when we said they lost. He has never brought them because the IBC would not really give them.
These are the Jubilee promises.
But let me I was here. But now let me just say this. When you talk about the headline on the headline story of the Standard, you may care to know that because most politicians knew that President Uhuru was going to retire. In NASA, those 3 governors you are pointing at, they are also going to retire. But they also knew it was Kalonzo's last chance. In NASA ODM, you would care to know that there were MPs very close to Raila who wanted to send him home. And I can confirm that I told him.
Thank you.
That's what they're doing.
Thank you.
So the handshake shocked them.
Thank you.
And all of them are in confusion. And some of these politicians, they have had their time. They
Fantastic.
need
Thank
to
you. Thank you.
join
Thank you,
us on the
Jacob.
outside.
We need to wind up. Let's get to your closing remarks, Senator Aaron Cheriot. Briefly, 20 seconds.
My comments have been misconstrued, but either way, I'll still go ahead and say this. You see, the handshake is not a vaccination against common sense. Therefore, you cannot expect me as an elected member of parliament to go back to my constituent and say that while ODM is focused on the handshake, I do the same for my party. The thing that my constituent expect me to do is to go back and say, I pointed my political party, the one that is in government, on the direction that I want them to take.
Thank you.
The areas of priority. And in any case, if there is an aspiration that the handshake will greatly achieve, it will be one to teach political tolerance, that is to accept that people can differ, and the maturity to accept results when the election is over.
Thank you very much, Dr. Isali. 20 seconds.
I think haters or lovers, but Ford Kenya is the second oldest party in this country. It's now 25 years old plus, actually 26 years old. I doubt whether Jubilee will even make 5 years. So you need to, when you talk about vision and content of a party, I think we have that in good supply. The early and abrasive campaign by the DP to take over from the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, is what is causing the problem. Can he stop these campaigns?
Thank you. Right, Dr. Otiende?
As these formations and permutations come, we expect disagreements, and that is quite healthy. What we must avoid are violent and insightful statements. And I urge the DCI and the DPP to look with utmost vigor on this area moving forward. Because let us disagree, but let us not incite and be vengeful. Let us not blackmail.
Right, thank you. Jacoyo? Oh, yeah, you gave your closing remarks, Matangi.
No,
Yeah,
The independents have nothing to say.
Matangi has nothing to say. Thank you.
I am watching.
All right, thank you very much. Matangi, 20 seconds, please. We're strapped for time.
Thanks, Debarl. I just want to echo what my colleagues have said. And it is important that we realize that we have a nation to build. And for all intent and purposes, whatever it takes, even if it means that we shake hands, but we have to develop this country until 2022. And we believe by the end of this session, for avoidance of doubt, that Jubilee will continue with the work that you have been given by this republic.
Thank you very much.
With the formation that we did, that we already pronounced.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Thank you. And of course, Director Mike, just give me just a moment. I know I'm overrunning, but we have Eric here saying, ha ha ha. Nice one by Jacoyo. The Jubilee merger was at Tumbili. You actually talked of Tumbili today. Yeah? It was at Tumbili. We have also F. Nganga say, where Midio, Parliament makes laws, interpretation of a law is by the judiciary, while enforcement is done by the executive. We have Joseph Odanga saying, on Monday, Khalwale sensationally claimed that his party leader, Moses Wetangula, pretends during the day and later visits the DP at night. Ask Eseli to clarify. Is that true? I do not know. But we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your valued company, and lots of tweets here that we can see. And we'll see how also this particular party formations go on, and we'll review that next week. Thank you very much for your valued company. My name is Debarl Inea.